In today's Breaking Tech Update, we dive deep into one of the most shocking developments of 2025, as the U.S. International Trade Commission has officially reopened a new review into whether Apple's latest redesigned Apple Watch models should once again face an import ban. And this entire situation stems from an intense and long-running patent dispute involving Masimo, a well-known medical technology company specializing in advanced health monitoring systems. And in this comprehensive breakdown, we unpack everything from the origins of this conflict to the allegations of patent infringement, to the redesigned Apple Watch blood oxygen system, to the broader legal war that has been unfolding across multiple courts for years. And to help you understand the gravity of this new ITC decision, let's start with the background, because it all begins with Masimo claiming that Apple infringed on its patented pulse-oximetry technology, which is the same type of sensor system used to measure blood oxygen levels on the Apple Watch. And back in 2023, after months of legal arguments, evidence, and expert testimony, the ITC actually agreed with Masimo, ruling that Apple had violated these patents, which led to a stunning import ban targeting the Apple Watch Series 9 and the Apple Watch Ultra 2, and that decision effectively blocked Apple from selling two of its newest and most premium models within the United States. And in response, Apple took swift action by temporarily removing the blood oxygen feature from its watches sold in the U.S. market as a workaround to comply with the ruling, while preparing an updated design that could bypass the infringement claims. And earlier this year, Apple released redesigned Apple Watch models with a modified blood oxygen detection system, which the company confidently believes solved the issue, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection even approved the newly redesigned models, determining that Apple's changes were significant enough to avoid violating Masimo's patents. But Masimo strongly disagreed, filing new objections and insisting that Apple was still infringing on its patent technologies. And now, in a major twist, the ITC has agreed to open a brand new proceeding specifically to investigate whether Apple's redesigned blood oxygen system is a genuine workaround, or if it still violates Masimo's intellectual property rights. And this new investigation could have massive implications for the Apple Watch lineup, because if the ITC rules against Apple again, the Commission could impose yet another import ban even on these redesigned models, potentially disrupting Apple's sales and availability of future Apple Watches in the U.S. market. And according to the ITC, this new review is expected to conclude within 6 months, meaning the Apple Watch could once again face a ban anytime within that time frame, depending on the Commission's final decision. And Apple has fiercely rejected Masimo's claims, arguing that the new complaint is nothing more than a baseless attempt to block innovation and eliminate key features of the Apple Watch. And Apple has gone on to accuse Masimo of copying the design language of the Apple Watch to fuel its legal arguments, stating that Masimo's competing health-oriented watch looks strikingly similar to Apple's product, and Masimo, on the other hand, is standing firm, claiming that Apple not only infringed its patents, but also improperly hired away Masimo engineers and misused confidential medical sensor technology to give the Apple Watch a competitive edge in health tracking. And this dispute has stretched far beyond just the ITC, because Masimo has also pursued multiple lawsuits against Apple in federal courts, including a major trade secret lawsuit filed in California, where Masimo argued that Apple misappropriated sensitive designs and algorithms. But after a long trial in 2023, the case ended in a mistrial due to a deadlocked jury, leaving the core issues unresolved. Although the legal fight didn't stop there, because Masimo also won a jaw-dropping $634 million jury verdict in another case where it accused Apple of infringing one of its patents, which has escalated the stakes dramatically and placed additional pressure on Apple. But this legal war is not one-sided, because Apple has also filed countersuits, including a case in Delaware where Apple accused Masimo's smartwatches of infringing two of Apple's own design patents, although that case concluded with Apple winning only a symbolic $250 verdict, showing how complex and unpredictable this battle has become. And now, all eyes are on the ITC, because this new investigation could determine whether Apple's updated blood oxygen system is legally compliant, or whether the redesigned watches might face yet another sweeping import ban. And analysts say that this review could even expand beyond the current models, depending on what the ITC discovers, meaning Apple's future smartwatch lineup could also be affected. And with Apple Watches being among the most popular wearables in the world, another ban could create shockwaves across the tech industry, impacting consumers, retailers, and even healthcare-focused app developers who rely on Apple Watch sensor data. And as this legal fight continues to escalate, both companies are aggressively defending their intellectual property, with Apple insisting that its redesigned blood oxygen system represents a completely new technical approach, while Masimo argues that Apple is continuing to exploit sensor technologies that Masimo pioneered. And this raises important questions to consumers. What does this mean for the future of the Apple Watch? Should buyers wait to purchase a new model? And how will Apple respond if the ITC rules against it again? And while Apple maintains that its workarounds are legitimate and fully compliant, Masimo's continued legal pressure keeps the situation uncertain. And this uncertainty means that the next 6 months are critical for both companies as the ITC prepares its final ruling. And moving forward, Apple Watch users may see temporary feature modifications, limited stock availability, or price fluctuations based on a legal outcome. And before we wrap up, here is my recommendation. If you're planning to buy a new Apple Watch in the next few months, it may be wise to keep an eye on the ITC's final decision before making a purchase, especially if blood oxygen tracking is a must-have feature for you. Because depending on the ruling, Apple may once again alter or remove certain health features from US models or potentially face temporary sales restrictions. However, if you don't rely heavily on pulse-oximetry features, you can still purchase models currently on the market without major concern, as Apple continues supporting them through software updates and broader health integrations. And with that, this concludes our detailed breakdown of the new Apple Watch import ban, investigation. And for more updates, insights, and deep dives into the biggest stories in tech, make sure you stay tuned to TechVerse.